But if that's his answer to reparations, I'm sorry, that is not a sufficient answer. Not at all, not even close.
I knew you'd like this one. New York Times columnist David Brooks, in a column last month entitled "The Case for Reparations," quote, "We are at a moment of make or break racial reckoning. We are a nation coming apart at the seams, a nation in which each tribe has its own narrative, and the narratives are generally resentment narratives. The need now is to consolidate all the different narratives and make them reconciliation and possibility narratives. Reparations are a drastic policy and hard to execute. But the very act of talking about and designing them, reparations policies, heals a wound."
It's one of many reasons I don't read David Brooks, but go ahead.
"Heals a wound and opens a new story," close quote.
You can imagine somebody whose parents, great-grandparents, came here in the 1880s after the Civil War, being asked to give reparations to people. Yeah, even in the antebellum South, most whites did not have slaves. The cost of one male adult slave was more than the average white person earned all year.
All right. This is where I have to jump in and say a few things, okay? Because I've done my research, and of course I don't know everything. So let's not pretend like I'm just going. First off, if someone came into the country after the Civil War and they're white, okay, they're already entering a country that is flourishing. Now, of course, millions of people died, okay, but you don't understand how much wealth came into America on the backs of slavery for hundreds upon hundreds of years. So we're not asking the family who's fresh off the boat and, they want to live in America, be like, hey, where's your money? Give me your money now. Like, no. There's a government, there's a system that could do it. Other countries have paid reparations. That's just what happens. If a building blew up in, Texas, you know what I'm saying? Where do you think the money's going to come from? It's not going to just come out of thin air. It's coming out of taxpayers' money or pockets, essentially. So let's not pretend like, hey, this is the first time, like, oh, we're asking. No, this is America. You pay taxes. Taxes is dispersed out everywhere. Now, when it comes to slaves, he said, the average, white male couldn't even afford this. Guess what? Banks were built and obtained their wealth off of slavery. You know how they did that? Well, of course, with the structure and the building and everything, but banks used to loan out slaves. Banks used to loan out slaves for people who couldn't afford, like a car. For people who couldn't just buy the car. And it's crazy how you could compare a human being to a car, but banks used to loan black people to white people who wanted to do like a month-to-month type thing. You know what I'm saying? So that doesn't justify anything. Like, just because half of the white population owns slaves doesn't mean that it's okay. Like, I still don't understand why he's bringing that up, but just to throw a little facts in there.
So they weren't all living in terror with their plantations and all the rest of it. It's insane. The other thing, I have a slight sidebar in there on the history of slavery. The history of slavery existed all over the world for thousands of years among all sorts of people, as far back as the history of the human species goes.
Yes.
It's one of many evils that the left tries to localize, when in fact it is a universal evil.
Okay.
So
And I hear this argument all the time. Slavery wasn't just in America. It wasn't an American thing like apple pie. This happened all over the world. And actually, actually other Africans sold their people. And not just to white people, to other people across the nation, across the world. Other whites slaved other whites, and Jamaicans slaved other Africans, and blah, blah. You are correct. You are 100% correct. But that doesn't make it okay. And if you want to be honest, whoever enslaved who, that country needs to pay up. If that's the case, if you want to talk about all slaveries across the world, guess what? Ain't none of it right. So guess what? Everybody got to pay up. Just because one country did it, 2 countries, 3 countries, 10, everybody got to pay up. If 20 women got raped by one guy, and is someone going to say, well, you know, you just didn't get raped. There was 19 other women who got raped. So guess what? Like, you don't get nothing out of it. You know, like, no. You could be like, oh, well, guess what? He's accounted for all these people. I don't understand why people think just because it happened everywhere across the world kind of justifies it. It's like, well, there's nothing we can do because it happened. No. Second off, America is the only country that benefited majorly off of slavery. Majorly off of slavery. Name one country that benefited. Like cotton and rice. Come on, bro. Do a little research. They profit 1,000,000% because, of course, they weren't paying people. It was just all profit. And third, slavery in America. America was the last country to abolish slavery. And it wasn't even easy. It wasn't like, you know, okay, slavery is bad, let's end it, boom, everything's done. Now, it took years upon years to finally kind of get it finished out. There were some slaves that didn't even know slavery ended after like 10, 15 years. So let's not act like America was the first ones to be like, oh, okay, we finally realized that these African people are actually people, they're not property, and we're going to uphold our Constitution, and we the people this, and everybody's created equal. No, that's not how it happened. So let's not pretend like that's just not true.
Is this too strong a statement that it is what is distinctive about the United States is not that it countenanced slavery in the 18th and 19th centuries, but that it has taken such efforts to overcome the legacy of slavery since. Is that fair?
That's part of it. But
I wish he can talk about the financial aspect of it. Like it's the reason why America's number one. It's literally why America's number one. I wish he could bring up that.
Well, more than that, as much as slavery is repudiated around the world today, prior to the 18th century, I know of no serious effort to abolish the institution anywhere.
No?
Anywhere.
Not in Africa, not in the Arabian world.
Not in Africa in the 21st century. When Adam Smith wrote in 1776 that the only place in the world where slavery had been abolished completely was Western Europe. And so this was
as late as the year this country was founded.
Yes. And so the idea that this is something that the United States had that nobody else had, or the other countries that didn't have, it's been estimated that there are more slaves in India than in the entire Western Hemisphere. And that's and that's before and after Columbus.
Who cares? Right. Who? Oh my God! Really? That's it? That's his answers to reparations. That's his answers to at least attempting to right a wrong that America has caused to a group of people that now reside in this country. That's his answer is, well, it happened to everybody. It happened across the world. In fact, you guys didn't even have it worse. Like I said, I find him interesting. I don't think he's maliciously putting out this information to have some sort of secret racist agenda. I'm just confused on how that is an answer to reparations in other groups, Indians, Asians. They all had their Jewish people, all the atrocities that happened to these people. There were reparations. Even America paid a part of some of these reparations. I don't understand why it's so hard. Well, I do get it. I do understand why, because if you don't have a big enough calculator to add all that was made during slavery. Slavery lasted over 400 something years. Free profit. It would be impossible to calculate all that. So I do understand why people don't want to touch it, because how do you figure that out? One. Two, how do you even disperse that? Because it seems like this conversation is just the can is just going to keep getting kicked down the street year after year after year. When I'm long gone, when you're long gone, our kids is going to be old as hell, and they're still going to be having this conversation of reparations. And at some point, everybody's going to be mixed. Everybody's going to be 20,000 descendants down the road. And then it's really going to be no reason for reparations. If they would have gave reparations when America said, my 40 acres and a mule, we would not be having this conversation. But of course, back then, 40 acres and a mule was, you had something back then. That was something to build upon. But of course, they didn't give that. And now we're in 2022, still having this conversation. So I don't understand. I respect Thomas, but that wasn't an answer. And I've looked for other, maybe they clipped the video and didn't answer. I haven't seen an answer. But if that's his answer to reparations, I'm sorry, that is not a sufficient answer. Not at all. Not even.